Overthrowing democratic governments. Iran. Operation Ajax, 1953. Let's start with one of the most consistent things the CIA has done throughout its history: overthrow governments. And not dictators or tyrants, but democratically elected leaders who simply didn't align with U.S. economic or political interests. One of the most important examples happened in Iran in 1953. Iran had a democratically elected prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh. He wasn't a communist, he wasn't violent, and he wasn't anti-American. What he did do was nationalize Iran's oil industry, which had been controlled by British companies for decades. That decision threatened Western profits, and the CIA decided it couldn't be allowed to stand. Instead of an invasion or a declaration of war, the CIA ran a covert operation. They bribed politicians, paid newspapers to spread false stories, organized street chaos, and turned parts of the military against the government. Within days, Mossadegh was removed from power, and the Shah was installed as an absolute ruler. The Shah ruled for decades with secret police, torture, and brutal repression, all while being backed by the United States. When people ask why relations between Iran and the U.S. collapsed, this moment is the foundation. Guatemala. Operation PB Success, 1954. Just 1 year later, the CIA carried out a similar operation in Guatemala. The country had elected a president named Jacobo Arbenz, whose main policy was land reform. He wanted unused land taken from massive corporations and redistributed to poor farmers. One of those corporations was United Fruit, an American company with enormous political influence in Washington. The CIA labeled Arbenz a communist threat and launched a covert campaign to remove him. They spread disinformation, created the illusion of a rebel invasion, and forced him to flee the country. What followed was more than 3 decades of military dictatorships, death squads, and genocide. Over 200,000 people were killed or disappeared. This was not an accident. It was the predictable outcome of destabilization. The CIA and political assassinations. Another deeply disturbing part of CIA history involves assassination plots. Officially, the agency claims it does not assassinate foreign leaders. Declassified documents show that this is, at best, a technicality. The CIA repeatedly plotted to eliminate leaders it considered inconvenient. One of its most famous targets was Fidel Castro. Over the years, the CIA attempted to kill him using methods so bizarre they almost sound fictional. Poisoned cigars, exploding seashells, toxic wetsuits, and even mafia hitmen were all seriously considered. None of these attempts succeeded, but they did push Cuba closer to the Soviet Union and escalate Cold War tensions. In other parts of the world, leaders were not so fortunate. In the Congo, the democratically elected Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba was viewed as a problem because he refused to align fully with Western powers. CIA documents later revealed discussions about poisoning him. While the CIA may not have pulled the trigger directly, they helped create the instability that led to his capture and execution. This pattern happened repeatedly. Destabilize a country, remove support for its leader, and let chaos take over. MK experimenting on humans. One of the darkest chapters in CIA history is Project MK. This was a secret program designed to explore mind control and behavioral manipulation. The CIA wanted to know whether it could control human thoughts, memories, and actions. To find out, they experimented on people without their knowledge or consent. Ordinary citizens were given powerful drugs like LSD without being told. Some were dosed repeatedly. Prisoners, mental health patients, and vulnerable individuals were subjected to extreme psychological experiments. The CIA even ran secret apartments where people were drugged and observed through one-way mirrors. The experiments didn't produce reliable results, but they did cause lasting harm. Some people suffered permanent psychological damage. At least one person died. When Congress began investigating in the 1970s, the CIA destroyed most of the records. What we know today is only a small portion of what actually happened, and the full scale of MK Ultra will likely never be revealed. Operation Mockingbird, controlling information. The CIA also worked extensively to control information. Under a program known as Operation Mockingbird, the agency secretly influenced journalists and media organizations. Some reporters knowingly cooperated, while others had no idea they were being used. Stories that supported CIA objectives were planted in major publications, while stories that exposed wrongdoing were suppressed. This manipulation shaped public opinion for decades and played a major role in the erosion of trust in the media. When the truth finally emerged, it confirmed that journalism had been compromised at the highest levels. Despite being legally barred from operating inside the United States, the CIA repeatedly violated domestic laws. For years, the agency secretly opened U.S. citizens' mail, collected personal information, and monitored activists, journalists, and civil rights leaders. People who opposed war or fought for racial equality were often labeled security threats. This information was shared with other government agencies and used to harass and intimidate individuals who had committed no crimes. These programs were eventually exposed, but few consequences followed. Drug trafficking and secret wars. The CIA also played a role in international drug trafficking, not by selling drugs directly, but by supporting groups that did. During the Cold War, the agency backed proxy armies in Southeast Asia that were deeply involved in the heroin trade. In the 1980s, CIA-backed Contra rebels in Central America trafficked cocaine to fund their war. That cocaine flooded American cities, contributing to addiction, violence, and the destruction of entire communities. Investigations later confirmed that the CIA was aware of these activities. No high-ranking officials were held criminally responsible. After the attacks of September 11th, the CIA entered another deeply controversial phase. The agency created a global network of secret prisons known as black sites. Suspects were kidnapped, hooded, shackled, and transported to foreign countries where they were interrogated using extreme methods. These included waterboarding, sleep deprivation, stress positions, and psychological abuse. The CIA referred to this as enhanced interrogation, but it was torture. A Senate investigation later concluded that these methods did not produce reliable intelligence. They did, however, severely damage America's credibility and moral authority. It's important to be clear about one thing. The CIA has stopped real threats and saved lives. That part of the story exists, but so does the rest. The agency has overthrown governments, ruined countries, tortured innocent people, manipulated the truth, and avoided accountability time and time again. This isn't about hating America or believing conspiracies. It's about understanding what happens when power operates in total secrecy for decades. If you want to understand how decisions like these shape the world we live in today, check out our video, Major Mistakes in History Explained in Detail, where we break down the choices that changed history and the consequences that followed.